Hello and welcome to Epic Draws Things. I'm Epic. How do you do? You can't answer that. Anyway, I actually found out that I cannot talk and draw at the same time, so this is going to be interesting. To save you from the army of us at my disposal, I decided to record myself drawing and then add the voice in later. It'll also save me from the embarrassment of the extremely long pauses where my brain tries desperately to get back on track but instead ends up in the black void of space. I'm getting a little off topic here, which is also what I do. So this should be easier on those of you who actually want something coherent. I kind of wanted to share the funny stories of my life, but in order to do that, I need to introduce a few characters into the mix, namely my parents. My dad was born and raised in Utah, and my mom was born and raised in Michigan. The gap between them was large, and you may find yourself wondering, how the heck did they meet? The answer comes in the form of a giant toaster oven that likes to call itself the state of Arizona. After my mom graduated from college, there were no jobs in Michigan, so she, her sister, and some of their friends moved out west in search of jobs. And her parents did eventually follow because they were like, screw Michigan winters, I want to live in an oven. It's funny, I know that my dad was going to school in Arizona, but I never really asked him why he decided to go to Arizona for schooling, because I thought that was kind of weird that he would go there and not to one of the many colleges that are in Utah. And so I asked him, and he said that he went there because this salesman sounded convincing. And I was like, salesman? He's like, the university recruiter, but he was basically a salesman. And he did his job, and we all fell for it. And I thought that was kind of funny, but I told him I wasn't going to tell him anybody that, and I just did. So, sorry, Dad. Love you. So anyway, eventually, my dad and my mom ended up working at the same place, and my mom was actually my dad's boss. And I think from there, they, went to the usual route, friends and then dating. I'm not really sure about all the details for sure, but I imagine they wouldn't get married before dating, but who knows? I also don't know if they were married before or after they moved up to Utah to live at my dad's parents' house. It's not important. The important thing is they got married, and then they got their own house, and then they decided to have me. Their bouncing baby full of joy and hatred. I was such an angry-looking baby. See here how my mom tries desperately to get me to smile, and it doesn't work.
Don't cry. No, don't cry. Smile. Smile.
Come on.
Smile. Okay.
She says I'm in the mood for being a brat, not smiling.
I would bet coming into this you didn't think you were going to see that. Well, you just did. Back on track. The house in Farmington. It was a nice house. Lived there from the time I was birthed to maybe 4 or 5. I know it was before I was in school. Can't really remember the inside of it, but I remember we had a huge backyard, and not too far from our property line, the back of Lagoon was there. For those of you who don't know what Lagoon is an amusement park, and for some reason they have this small zoo ride that you can ride the train and see the animals, but you can't really sit and look at the animals like you can at a regular zoo. You just have to ride past them. Anyway, at one point they had lions. They might still have lions now, but the lions were like really close to our backyard. Maybe they weren't. I just know that we could hear them, and they did their little roar thing. So majestic, right? It's really funny how Disney was like, no, that doesn't sound terrifying enough. We're just gonna have this guy bang around a trash can. And now that you know that, whenever you watch The Lion King and you hear the roar, you will hear the trash can. I'm getting off topic. So the reason I bring up the lions is that they would always do their little roar thing and it could be heard at our house. I think they always did it at night too, but I'm a little fuzzy on the details. I can't really remember. One night, my mom had company over, and the lions started roaring, and the guests, they were like, "What is that noise?" And my mom says, "Oh, it's just the lions roaring at Lagoon, not a big deal. They do that sometimes." And that pretty much settled everything, and they were like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense. Lions, they are outside." But it turns out it wasn't the lions. It was my dad throwing up in the other room. I don't know if that story was before or after I was born, but most of the Farmington House stories my parents have told me I don't really remember. I do remember when I was like an older kid, but not so much younger. There was this time that I think my dad was working in the garage, and, when you don't hear your child for a while, you're like, what are they doing? And I want to say that I was 2. Anyway, he found me by the garden faucet, and I had slime all over my face, and I guess I had been sitting there and eating slugs the whole time. So yeah, hope you weren't eating anything. I'm going to wrap this video up by saying I was intending to finish the picture, but my pen died, the downside of digital drawing, and I didn't have any batteries, and I couldn't go buy any. I'll have to finish it in the next video, where I'll have more stories to tell of my childhood, and hopefully they won't be as gross as puking and eating slugs. Anyway, see you next video.